let's start with a simple question here, a question from Ernie. Does your training address such things as it applies to special situations as someone who is in the military or who already has health ins from the VA yet turned 65? Does the software account for sort of special situations like that with military and maybe even railroad pensions?
Well, it doesn't handle railroad retirement pensions, although for most people, my understanding is that they're very similar. They're calculated in very similar ways to Social Security benefits. But we have this other tool called Maxify Planner where people can put in other, it's a full lifetime planning tool. So it asks you questions about Social Security, about pensions of whatever, from whatever source they're coming. It allows you to enter your retirement accounts, your Roth accounts, your non-Roth accounts, specify whether you're going to do Roth conversions, specify mortgages, all the off-the-top expenses. It figures out federal and state income taxes and FICA taxes, Medicare Part B premiums. So it's a full-fledged financial planner. So it allows you to integrate Social Security planning with all the other financial planning issues that people are facing. It also calculates life insurance requirements that go above and beyond the life insurance that Social Security is implicitly providing. And then in addition, it provides some really good advice about portfolio diversification, what kind of portfolios you should hold given your circumstances and how risk averse you are. So it's a really cool tool that you can check out. We have lots of things on our website, testimonials, webinars that we've been running of late that demonstrate the software. Here's some recent webinars you can just go to and watch them and see about that software. So anyway, so the answer is that the Maximize My Social Security tool doesn't handle this, but the other tool that we have does handle this fully. Although every single detail of government and civil service pensions, we're not calculating. So we're not going to be calculating a civil service pension for you in this tool, but we will be, once you put in the amount that you're actually going to be receiving, we'll be able to analyze what that means for you in terms of your discretionary spending and your living standard per household member, how much you should be spending and saving this year, how much life insurance you should be buying, et cetera. So next question, Alex.
Okay, this is a question from Robert. Do either of the software packages deal with the tax situation where either 50 or 85% of Social Security is being taxed? Is that something we can model?
Yeah, the Maximize My Social Security has the entire, basically has TurboTax under the hood. It deals with every aspect of your income taxes, and it's also dealing with all 42 state and District of Columbia income taxes as well in very fine detail. So it certainly handles appropriately Social Security benefit taxation, the fact that the limits beyond which first 50% and then 80% are subject to taxation is it 80 or 85%? I forget now on that one. I think it's might be
85. I think you misspoke. I think you said that was Maximize My Social Security, but you're referring to Maxify.
Maxify Planner, yeah, it's Maxify Planner handles fully all these tax issues. Yeah, it's first 50% and then 85% above the second threshold, and those thresholds are not indexed for inflation, and that's fully incorporated in the program. The program, Maxify Planner, just like Maximize My Social Security, puts all the results, it generates all its results in today's dollars so that there's no confusion over inflation. So it won't pretend that you're going to be a millionaire and have maybe 10 millions of in assets when in fact, after adjusting for inflation, it's only 2 million in assets for the client in 30 years. So let's go to the next question, Alex.
Okay. Maybe you want to just, some people are asking what exactly is a restricted application. Maybe you want to quickly explain that.
So restricted application is where you tell Social Security that I want to apply just for example, a spousal benefit or a divorce spousal benefit, and I do not want to apply for my retirement benefit. I want to restrict my application to applying for a spousal benefit or a divorce spousal benefit, or it might be for a widow's benefit and not a retirement benefit, or for a retirement benefit and not a widow's benefit. You have to be extremely precise with Social Security. The best thing, I think, is to go right into the office and make sure that in the remarks section of Social Security, you write out in black and white, I'm restricting my application to filing for this benefit starting in this month, and I am not filing for my retirement. I'm not filing for any other benefit, including these benefits. I am not filing for those, because Social Security, unless you document this, if you do it over the phone, they can, and I've seen examples of this, file you for two benefits at once and dramatically reduce your lifetime benefits as a result. Because some clerk for Social Security doesn't know the provisions very well, or maybe is just having a bad day and doesn't like the sound of your voice on the telephone, can really screw you up. And unless you have documentation that they screwed you up, it may be even years later that you realize that they've screwed you up. I'll just give you a really simple example. Suppose you're age 62 and you're a widow, and your optimal plan, as we saw in the case of Wilma, is to take your widow's benefit first, and then wait to take your retirement benefit when you're 70, when it's dramatically higher, when it's over 70% higher adjusted for inflation, because that's going to maximize your lifetime benefits. But let's suppose you go in there and you say, I'd like to just take my widow's benefit, and the clerk, or you maybe do this over the telephone, and the clerk says, okay, great, we're going to file you for widow's benefits, but thanks very much, we won't file you for retirement benefits. And then by some mistake or by malicious intent, they file you for both benefits. Well, they're going to deprive you of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of your lifetime in terms of benefits, because you're going to just get the larger of the two benefits. You'll get your widow's benefit. Maybe it's $1 larger than your reduced age 62 retirement benefit. But if you waited till 70, that reduced age 62 retirement benefit will be 70% higher than it was at 62, and dramatically higher than 70% higher than the widow's benefit, which was only $1 higher than your reduced retirement benefit starting at age 62. So you see the problem. You need to be very, very careful. You never want to ask Social Security a question. You always want to tell them exactly what to do, and you want to have it in writing, so there's documentation that they've been notified that this is what you want to do. So sending them certified mail with the return receipt requested is really important. Going in there, filling in the remarks section is really important. So that's what you need to be advising your clients to be doing. And I would be very careful about filing for anything over the phone. And even if you file on the web, I've seen these forms or have a client file. You can't file for the client. They have to do the filing. You could maybe be observing their screen when they're filing. But I'm very distrustful of doing things over the web as well, because I think at least having a client, sending off a client to do X on the web, and then they read the instructions from Social Security, it's very misleading, because some of these forms say file for all your benefits, when you're actually just trying to file for one benefit. Anyway, let's take the next question.
Many people are asking what our prices are for the softwares. Do you want to just quickly say what they are?
The Social Security tool, Maximize My Social Security, sells for $40. We've seen that it might make a couple over $500,000. So compared to that, $40 is, and that's for a household, but for a financial planner, it's $250 a year. And there's nothing that says that you have a client that you can say, look, I'd like you to buy the software and I'm going to buy it as well, and I'm going to set you up. But if you want to run additional runs at home, you'll have your own subscription. It's only $40, and you'll enter the same inputs that I've entered for you. And so for the financial planner, it's $250 a year, and then $250 to renew it every year. And we've kept that price fixed for many years now, and we hope to be able to keep it fixed. So it's getting lower in real dollars through time. Compared to other programs that are out there, it's the cheapest on the market and certainly the best. It handles all cases. It handles the grandfathering, it handles disabled children. It takes into account when children are going to be graduating, exactly what month they were born, which matters. So it handles the earnings test, the adjustment of the reduction factor, recomputation of benefits, all the provisions in Social Security. We've been working on this software for decades, really, and starting about 10 years ago, we hired somebody full-time to just focus on Social Security. He's John O'Connor's dad, Michael O'Connor. He's the former head of research of the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, they don't put just anybody in charge of research for the Army Corps of Engineers. And I hired Michael over the phone, Mike O'Connor over the phone, because he called me up and said, well, your calculations for your full financial planning tool aren't exactly right with respect to how you're indexing the alternative minimum tax. I said, well, what mistake are we making? He said, well, you're indexing all three key parameters of the system, and Congress has historically only been indexing one of them. And I said to Mike, can I hire you? And he said, yes. He was retired at this point. So he's been working to make everything absolutely perfect in this program with respect to Social Security. And then we have a retired former Social Security technical expert who worked for 30 years with Social Security, and he knows Social Security's program operating manual system. He seems to know it by heart, all the hundreds of thousands of rules. So we have tremendous expertise on Social Security underneath our hood. And anyway, that's the price for Social Security, and the price for the Maxify tool is $499 for the first year license, and then the renewal license is $379. And this tool is also extremely inexpensive compared to something like eMoney or MoneyGuide Pro. So if you were buying one of those tools and also buying our Social Security tool for $250, it'd be much smarter just to buy our Maxify Pro tool, because you would save several $1,000s by changing up your software. You wouldn't need a Social Security tool in addition to Maxify Planner, and you wouldn't need eMoney or MoneyGuide Pro or Naviplan or any of these other, or Right Capital, any of these other tools, which are doing financial planning in a way that has very little connection to what economics, or I think no connection really to what economics recommends.
Okay. Yeah. Let's. Here's a question from Usman. He'd like to know if someone had an overseas assignment and did not put, 35 years of Social Security and is now back in the country, if they keep working beyond FRA, will Social Security increase after their FRA, or yeah?
It may if their average index monthly earnings goes up because they work. For anybody who earns above the ceiling, the maximum taxable earnings, which is, John, do you know the actual value? I know it's over 130,000 at this point. It might be like 137,000.
Yeah,
anybody
138, something like that.
138,000, yeah. Anybody earning like 140 and beyond, their benefit will definitely go up above and beyond what the COLA would dictate, what the cost of living adjustment would dictate. And the thing that you need to realize is that you could be raising your Social Security benefit at age 90. If you earned, if you're still working at 90 and and inflation takes off and wages go up just because of inflation, your earnings that enter into your earnings record after age 60 are not inflation adjusted. So they just enter in nominally. So you could look to Social Security, given the current benefit formula, like you're making really high earnings, even though it's all reflective of inflation. So our system, our program definitely takes into account what's called the recomputation of benefits. We take that into account every year in figuring out each year's benefits going forward. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. This is a question from Colleen. She asked, for divorced widows born after 1954, is the date of filing the late spouse irrelevant and therefore different from the currently married type widow rules?
The divorced widow rules are the same as the non-divorced widows rule. So if you get married before age 60 and you still have a spouse, the former spouse doesn't marry, you cannot collect on that former spouse, whether that former spouse is alive or dead. And if you wait till age 60 to remarry, you can collect a widow's benefit on the former spouse if the former spouse dies, even though you're married to you're still married and your current spouse is still alive. And then if your current new spouse dies, you can collect the higher of the two widows benefits. So you can collect off of the spouse, you have two deceased former spouses, you can collect off the spouse that is going to generate the highest widow benefit for you. Did I say that right, John?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's complicated, and even I forget some of the provisions. I also need a refresher course. So Martha, maybe one of the things you should do in your RSSA certificate is have refresher courses every so often. I'll attend them as well. Okay.
We'll do that. Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Sure.
I
Good.
just want to move on to another question here. A lot of people are asking, how does one access their earnings record, or if they have a client, does the client need to make an account on socialsecurity.gov, or can the planner access their earnings record on their own?
I could take that one if you want to.
Well, I know the answer. The client cannot get somebody else to go on to Social Security for them. So it has to be the client themselves who go to myssa.gov and pull up their earnings history. Now, when they do that, they're going to be probably frustrated because they are going to be asked a lot of questions like, what's the street address of the house you lived in when you were age 12? Or what's the name of your elementary school? And at the time, you're not going to know the answer probably, or you might have forgotten the answer. And your time probably will run out, or you're going to have to go and try and find the answer and then log back in. And then when you log back in, Social Security is going to say, well, you've logged in too often. We're going to not let you log in again. And you may have to wait several days. The client may have to wait several days to be able to log in again. But they should stick to it, because ultimately they'll be able to get in, they'll be able to recover their earnings history. And then one of the cool features of our software, both the Maximize My Social Security software and the Maxify Planner software, is that if a client has their earnings record up on their laptop or desktop computer, they can copy the entire screen, all the words of that earnings records, all the numbers in the earnings record. It's going to be an earnings statement that has words and numbers. They just select that entire page, they copy it, and then they paste it into an email and send it to you, their financial planner. And then what you can do is copy the entire email, all the words and all the numbers, and you can paste that when you're entering their earnings history, there's a place where you can paste that copied earnings record. And what's going to show up miraculously is just the earnings history, just the actual numbers of how much they earned every year in the past. The words will disappear.
And we've also added recently the ability that they can download. They have the option at the ssa.gov site of downloading their earnings record as an XML document, which they can then send to you as an attachment, and you can upload that into the software for them.
So that's method 2 to make things easier. They can get an XML file, which they can download, and then just attach it to an email and send you that, and then you can enter that into our program, and you'll all be all set as well. But frankly, even if they just sent you the earnings history, or they gave it to you in a piece of paper, they printed it out and walked into your office and gave it to you on a piece of paper, it literally will not take you more than 5 minutes to type in the earnings history of a particular client, and 10 minutes if it's a couple. So this is not really a major deal. And once it's in there for life. So next question, Alex.
Do you want to just quickly say what the price is for Maxify? Because I think some people didn't quite get that.
Okay, so the first year professional license cost $499, and then the renewal licenses, which are for a year, are $379. So the first year pay $499. Every year thereafter you pay $379, and we have these
and that's
webinars.
For the planners.
That's the planner version, professional planner version, and if you're interested in that software, I would say, just spend some time on our webinar, on our website, look at our case studies, which you can find down here, look at the testimonials, look at the overview. And we have, once you buy the software, we have terrific help center where there's a whole bunch of instructional videos. We're adding more all the time. So, and then we have excellent customer support. We have a individual, Dan Royer, who provides full-time customer support for this product. And we also have the 2 other products that you might be interested in buying. For Maximize My Social Security, you can purchase an expert review session with John O'Connor, who's on the call with us. And you could also purchase an expert review session with Dan Royer if you're using the Maxify Pro software. So we have tons of help. We also, if you're interested and if you're kind of hesitant and you're unsure, if you think you need some additional hand-holding, you haven't yet bought our software, or maybe you just bought it and you need some extra help, Alex and I will be happy to give you a personal webinar to walk you through Maxify Planner at a time that's convenient for you and for us.
Yeah, let's go to a more specific question. This is from Edward. It's more like a comment, but maybe you can respond to it. The program does an outstanding job of maximizing dollar benefits. However, all dollars are not equal. Quality of life is much better at an early age, and dollars earned in your 60s could be enjoyed through travel. Do you want to maybe talk about that?
Absolutely. This goes to the point that economics says you want to maximize somebody's lifetime resources, the client's lifetime resources, over their entire planning horizon. Their planning horizon goes out to to their maximum age of life, and our default value is age 100. So that's their budget, and you're trying to make their resources as large as possible, and that's where Social Security comes in. You want to maximize their lifetime benefits so that they can do the most spending they can on a lifetime basis. But then the question is really going to the issue of when they spend their money. And it may be that they are more interested in spending their money when they're young and healthy than they are when they're older and less, not able to go skiing, or to travel as much, that kind of thing. Well, in our Maxify Planner program, I'll just show you. So here's a particular case I set up for a household. I'm just going to, we have different data for this particular spouse, and there's other spouse. This is just showing you a little bit of the interface, questions about housing, Social Security, regular assets, other things that you can enter into the menu. But a key thing here is settings and assumptions. Under that, you can set the living standard index right here, which is defaulted to be 100. But if you want it starting at 75, for example, to have the living standard of the household drop by, let's say, 0.5% a year, you would just grow it, and you can see that the index, the pattern of the living standard is now dropping to, between age 75 and 100. It drops from 100 down to 81. So it's falling by 19%. And that means that the program is going to arrange for that household's living standard per household member to decline gradually by 5% a year, 0.5% a year, until they reach age 100. And so this program, I think, is responding to that. The Social Security tool is much simpler. It's dealing just with getting your client the maximum lifetime benefits. And our Maxify tool, I want to point out one other thing, is very much focused on cash flow issues with the client. It might be that the client maybe the client's in their early 50s, they have a mortgage to pay off, kids to put through college, they have a lot of mouths to feed, so their living standard can't be as high as it will be in the future after, for example, these things, the kids have left the household, the mortgage has been paid off, maybe they have car debt that they're trying to pay off, car loan. So their living standard will never put them into debt. In Maxify Planner, we'll figure out the smoothest possible living standard without putting them into debt. But that may involve having a lower living standard before they get out from under these obligations and a higher one thereafter. And why is that relevant to your question? Well, because for some people, their Social Security benefits will give them a higher living standard than before they retired. This is for lower earning people that kind of run their assets down to zero and are living just on Social Security. So this Maxify Planner will show that, and it might lead them to want to take their Social Security benefits earlier because of the cash flow issues that are involved here. So in general, you want to make your lifetime spending budget as large as possible. But in some cases, if you're cash flow constrained, that's not the optimal thing to do. And this tool, but not the Maximize My Social Security tool, really helps you look at that, because it shows you exactly the pattern of your living standard for the client, and you end up being able to, and I just show you an example. I'll just run this report of a living standard for a client with Maxify. And this particular client I do not think is a cash flow constraint, but we'll just take a peek here. Yeah, this orange line here is their living standard per household member. The green, sorry, it's their discretionary spending per household member, but since it's constant, the living standard is constant as well per household member. And you can see that the green curve is their income, which is not smooth, and the blue curve is their off the top fixed expenses on housing and tuition payments, special expenditures, but also on taxes and Medicare Part B premiums. So you see the program is smoothing their living standard, but if they were cash constrained, their living standard, the orange curve, would be lower for a while and then higher thereafter. So that really gets to this issue of cash flow constraints. It would only look like that if they have a cash flow constraint, if they're not in a position to have a perfectly smooth living standard without going into debt or going deeper into debt. So let me take the next question, Alex.
Larry, do you want to touch on just briefly the how both programs discount future income to account for the time value of money?
Yeah, we use the long-term inflation index bond yield, which is now 0% on inflation index bonds, which are called TIPS, Treasury and Inflation Protected Securities. The 30-year yield right now is exactly, well, not exactly, it's probably a little bit different from zero, but it's essentially zero right now. So our default assumption in the Maxify Planner tool and also the Maximize My Social Security tool is that the discount rate is actually zero right now, but in general, it's going to be what the 30-year inflation index bond yield is. We have in mind changing that default value to every 6 months in June, July 1st and January 1st, based on where rates were in June and in December. And recently, because we just passed July 1st, we changed the value to 1.5% for the nominal return on long-term treasuries and 1.5% for the inflation rate, because they net out to zero in terms of the real return, and that's exactly what the average real return was in June for inflation index bonds of 30-year maturities. So we're doing the discounting at that rate, and it just happens to be zero right now, but in general, it's not zero. Before we changed it, we were using, I think, about 1.5% real was the number we had. So let's go to the next question, Alex.
Okay, this is a question from Christy. Say if a married woman is still working and the husband has reached full retirement age at 66, would it be beneficial for the spouse to draw a spousal benefit? The benefit being received by the husband is being taxed due to the additional income from the jobs, no?
Well, the husband will not be able to collect under the new rules unless the husband's been grandfathered, was born before January 1st, 1954. The husband will not be allowed to collect a spousal benefit on the wife's earnings record until the wife starts collecting her retirement benefit. Now, she might have reached full retirement age, in which case the earnings test has ended, and decide to take her retirement benefit for reasons of trying to maximize their joint benefits. We saw a case in what I demonstrated with Maximize My Social Security, where the spouse took her retirement benefit early in order to get the husband a spousal benefit based on the fact that they were grandfathered. But if they're not grandfathered, the husband cannot collect on the wife's earnings record unless she's collecting her retirement benefit, and vice versa.
Similarly, this is a question from Deborah. Does the software address spousal benefits for those with a private retirement fund, like the Federal Civil Service, for example, and whether they are able to collect widower benefits if they have no Social Security benefits of their own?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the Civil Service plan, but my understanding is that there are some people, or a lot of people in the Civil Service, who are fully eligible for Social Security, and in that case, there's no real interaction between Social Security and Civil Service pensions. We do in our software handle fully the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset provision, which are provisions that affect your benefits if you're collecting a pension that is based on employment that was not covered, was not taxed by Social Security. So we certainly handle that, but we have a place in our software where we ask you about your pension, whether you have whether it was not covered by Social Security, in the sense that taxes were not, you earn that pension based on a job at which taxes were not subtracted for Social Security. That's what we mean by non-covered pension. So we ask about that, but what we don't do is figure out for you what your actual civil service pension would be, or your railroad retirement pension would be, or your pension with the Canadian. You might have worked in Canada, so you might be getting a Canadian pension based on working in Canada, and that can affect your own retirement benefit, again, through this windfall elimination provision. foreign pensions will not affect your survivor benefits under the, or your spousal benefits due to the government pension offset provision. But if you earned a pension from non-covered employment in the U.S., it will affect your spousal benefit or your divorced spousal benefit or your widow's benefit or your divorced widow's benefit. All those benefits will be impacted potentially by your non-covered pension.
And so this is another question, staying with widower benefits. Say if a husband dies at age 60 and the wife is 58, is it true that she cannot get widow benefits until age 60?
Unless she's disabled. I'm sorry, unless if he were disabled, no, if she's disabled, she can collect them starting at age 50. And they will not be reduced relative to collecting them at age 60. And the other thing that's important is that if she collects her widow's benefit, if she's disabled and collects her widow's benefit early, let's say at age 60, then when she reaches full retirement age, her widow's benefit will be kicked up to the non-reduced level, which is a great benefit for disabled widows and widowers. So that's something that I'm sure that most people, even most disabled people, don't know, but our software does know and takes into account in its calculations.
Let's see, I'm just trying to find a good question here. You recently posted, this is from Richard. He says that you recently posted an article on how those who are 60 years old today and not working because of COVID are adversely being affected on their future Social Security benefits. Is this something that can be addressed by an act of Congress?
Yeah, I don't know that I actually wrote about this because I do think I did talk to the chief actuary, Steve Goss at Social Security about this. Let me just make clear to everybody what's involved here. This year, since so many people have been laid off, we're going to have very low average earnings for the economy, and since that's going to impact your indexation of your benefits. For example, suppose average wages in the economy this year are 15% below where they were last year. Well, people's benefits are going to be reduced because of that, because their wage index, they're going to be reduced by 50% for those who start collecting their benefits starting next year. Actually, anybody who turns age 60 from this year on, well, next year on, is going to have their benefits potentially permanently reduced because we had very low average earnings this year because of the COVID-19 epidemic. Now, I'm quite confident, and certainly the chief actuary for Social Security was quite confident that Congress will change this, that as soon as this happens to the first person, people like me will be writing about it and pushing Congress to change it, and the next day Congress will pass a bill to change it. I don't think anybody in Congress is going to want to take the political heat of permanently reducing people's Social Security benefits because COVID-19 took out the economy for a good part of the year, and hopefully just that, and that we'll get back to a regular economy starting in 2021. But anyway, this is a concern until Congress has actually passed that change in law and the president signed it. This will be still a concern that people have to face. So if you haven't reached age 60, there is a risk that your benefit will be, I think it's a very small risk, will be permanently reduced because average earnings this year are so much lower than they would otherwise have been.
Okay, let's take a couple more questions here. Some of the questions are slowing down, and I think we're at the second 45 minute mark. We're getting close
How
to
many
it at
people we
least.
still have? How many people have attended?
Oh, we still have about 160 people here.
Cool.
So here's another public policy question. President Trump is pushing for a payroll tax holiday for employees and maybe also for employers. How will that factor into this?
Well, the benefits are being calculated based on your average index monthly earnings. So if they're still being reported to the government, which they will be, even if the payroll tax were set to 0, I would think that the employers are still going to send in the payroll tax and just withhold 0 on the send the government a check for 0, but send the information about what the person was actually earning. So I don't think that this potentially temporary reduction in the payroll tax is actually going to affect benefits one way or the other.
And yeah, there's another question is whether how does the program calculate disability benefits? I know you've talked about that before, but are they affected by COVID-19?
Well, the program does not actually calculate disability benefits because we assume that the people that are disabled or using the program know their disability benefit. We do calculate the disabled child benefit, the benefit going to disabled children. That we do calculate, but the disability benefit, you need to know if you're disabled, you're going to know that benefit. So we don't actually go through the process of trying to calculate it for you.
While you're looking, I just wanted to clarify. Some people were asking about restricted applications before. I just want to stress the importance of not conflating restricted applications with filing and suspending. In my experience, planners have been confused about this, and also a lot of their clients are confused and think in order to file a restricted application for spousal benefits only, you first have to file and suspend. Actually, that's the worst thing you can do. They're mutually exclusive. If you do one, you cannot do the other. And we have really good explanation of this in the filing guides for both Maxify and Maximize My Social Security that really explain what a restricted application is and what filing and suspending is, and the aspects of it that can still be done. And it also shows you how to explains how to model each in our software. So if you have a client that's confused about this and maybe you're a little fuzzy on it, you can use some of our documentation to help yourself, but also your client understand the difference between the two.
Yeah, John's making a really good point. You can really screw yourself if you're in this grandfathered group. You can really screw yourself up by filing for retirement benefit when you really want to file for your spousal or divorced spouse benefit. So be very, very careful. Make sure you have the right answer. Don't ask those screening questions. Make sure they file for you correctly. So next question, Alex.
Okay, let's take about 2 more questions here. Do we calculate the benefits for a child if a parent files early at 62?
Do we calculate the benefit for a child when the second?
If the parent files early at 62, does that matter in terms of? Yeah.
Right. We calculate that, and the child's benefit is going to be based on the full retirement benefit of the parent, not the age 62 reduced benefit. So if the child is below age 19 and still in school, they'll get a child benefit. And if they're older and they're disabled, they'll get a disabled child benefit.
Okay. So yeah, let's finish out with one last question. Let's see here. Do you need to be certified to use this software? Do you need any sort of formal certification?
No, there's no certification required. We're selling it to households. We're selling it to financial plan. Both of our tools we're selling to both households and financial planners. It's the same tool, except for financial planners can run up to 100 clients, whereas households can only run themselves. So otherwise, our philosophy is, if there are some people, it's a small segment of society who are do-it-yourselfers. They want to do it themselves and don't trust anybody else to handle their finances or give them advice. So for that segment of society, we're providing these household licenses, but we wanted to make sure that the tool is exactly as powerful as it is for financial planners. We want to give them, if they want to do it that way, do the planning that way, they shouldn't be somehow hindered or encumbered, shackled. So we're giving them the same ability to get to the right answer.
Larry,
Right.
Alex, could I make a comment regarding that?
Mm-hmm.
I had a gentleman get in touch with me, he was an attorney, highly educated. He obtained the household version of Maximize My Social Security. He had a younger wife and 2 minor children, and he was approaching retirement age. And he ran the software using the household version, but he had trouble just interpreting it, because he wasn't as knowledgeable about the Social Security rules, and he was confused with what it was telling him. And I only bring this up to say that, as a registered Social Security analyst, he ended up hiring me to help him with that decision. And I thought that was very interesting, and goes a lot to encouraging folks who want to do this to take our program and become educated on the Social Security rules. It's a lot more than just running the software. And I also want to put a plug in for the support that Maximize My Social Security gives you as a subscriber. It's a tremendous case-specific support when you have their software.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I agree. We've gone through lots of provisions, directly, indirectly, in today's discussion, and there are things that, unless you have had some training, you're not going to know. So a client's not going to know, for example, that they could get terribly hurt by filing. Well, just a typical household who doesn't use expert advice or doesn't trust running the program by themselves. They might decide, hey, this program is saying X, but I know better. Unless they really talk to a person in a lot of cases who they can really figure out has had a lot of training in this area, they may make decisions that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. We just saw that in the very first case study. The couple stood to gain $560,000 by just being patient for 8 years. And it's one thing if they need the money, if they have nothing else to live on, but if we're talking about a client with a pretty high earnings record, they're surely going to have retirement accounts and regular assets and have a way to get by to age 70 to collect. So absolutely, I strongly feel that expert advice by professionals can make a huge amount of difference to households. And again, once again, I applaud you, Martha, for putting together this fantastic program, which is going to really help a lot of financial planners, but also help, more importantly, help their clients dramatically through time. So Alex, maybe we should wrap it up at this point and thank everybody.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just say thanks to everyone for attending. We will be posting the webinar. Thank you, John, for reminding me some of the provisions I forgot. And thanks, Martha, for organizing this. And we have just one more, reminder. We do have webinars about Maxify posted at the Maxify.com website or MaxifyPlanner.com. You can get there both ways. So we look forward to interacting with you folks directly or indirectly through Martha's organization through time. So you all take care, be safe, very scary times, and let's hope we all get through this. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Larry.
much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.